Hey guys, wanted to come on here and do this video. I'm kind of struggling to do it, but I feel very prompted to share it. But I was actually trying to avoid it because the last video I did, one of the last videos that I did, some people said some not very nice things about it, and I wasn't feeling up to doing another video because people are kind of mean online. But anyway, I'm going to try to block that and just share what I need to share and not really care what other people have to say. So I got to learn to do that more. And so I wanted to go ahead and come on here and just share a little story with you. I want to share with you why I decided to share this. I was listening to a podcast this morning, and the podcast had it's called the Comeback Podcast. And there was and I shared it on my timeline in case you guys want to go see it. It was something very interesting that one of the members from our church said that the Lord meets you where you are at. And that led me to think that I needed to share this story. Because a lot of times people ask me and my husband, like, how did we meet or where did we meet and stuff. And for a long time, I kind of felt embarrassed to share it because I felt like I was going to be judged and stuff. And so I just kind of said, well, we'll talk about that later, or I'll tell you about it some other time or something. Because it's not something that usually church members would share. And so, but I find that my story always makes people smile, and my husband and my story of how we met makes people smile, and they feel like they can relate more to us, I think, because they find out how we met. And so I thought I would go ahead and share this because of it. So what happened was, I was heartbroken from another previous relationship. My husband says that he was also, I'm just going to tell you my version. His version is probably funnier than mine. He adds a little bit more to it, but I'll try to share some of the details he shares with me. So how my husband and I met. Like I said, I was heartbroken from a previous relationship. I didn't want to go out. I wanted to stay home. And my husband also, he didn't want to go out. And we were we were both heartbroken. So we weren't in the looking mood, and we didn't want to go out. But so my little sister wanted to go out to a club, and she was going to meet a certain person there, and she wanted me to go with her. I don't remember if it's because she didn't drive or what. I'm not really sure. But I knew she wanted me to go with her, but I was like, no, I don't want to go. And she was like, come on, go. And I don't want to be the third wheel. I didn't want to be that person, right? But I was like, all right. I didn't even dress up, honestly. I was basically wearing like regular like slacks, like for work or something. I was wearing like some blue pants. And I was wearing like the best I did was wear like a purple shiny shirt, like a blouse. And that's it. I didn't really dress up or anything. I didn't get on a dress. I didn't like doll up or anything. I just went, right? My husband said that his best friend wanted him to go, and he didn't feel like going. But my husband was coming from Brownsville, so he drove a longer way to get to McAllen. I drove from Palmview to McAllen, or far, whatever. It was basically, no, it's far. It's far. It's not McAllen. It's far. And so the club was called, what was the club called? because I'm so nervous because I'm on here saying this and I'm like, why am I doing this? But I felt prompted to share it for a reason, and I'll tell you why. So I'm having like a moment. It was called Grand Central Station. Okay. And, so I show up that night with my little sister, and, she's going to meet this person there, who they later became friends and stuff. They didn't end up going out or anything. They just were friends. And, so we were sitting there, and since we're good girls, we were there super early. And it's kind of like we're like the club barely opens, and like they have like the karaoke going on, and like it was super early, right? We're not supposed to be there. We're like, if my dad found out that we were there, he would probably kill us, right? And so we went, and I'm super nervous telling you this story, guys. And I know people are probably going to come at me and say stuff, and probably some of my family members too, but de modo, I mean, the Lord wanted me to share it because I need to tell you why the Lord meets you where you are at. There's a point to this story, okay? So anyway, so we're there, and the lights are off. They're putting on all the, they're starting to turn on lights and stuff, and they're putting the music, and they're putting they're getting ready to start everything. And so we're sitting at one of the end tables, and we're there waiting or whatever. And all of a sudden, my husband walks in, Rudy walks in, and he walks in with his friend. And I don't want to get her into trouble. So he walks in with his friend, and my sister, I'm not going to share all the details of that. I'm just going to be like, she went like this, right? Anyway, she goes like this, right? And so I look over, and I just kind of smile, and I kind of look down or whatever. But I mean, I just looked at what she told me to look at, and I just kept doing my thing, right? I was sitting there, we were talking or whatever. She's wearing this dress that I hadn't even worn yet. It was my brand new dress. She wanted to wear it, and so she was wearing that dress, and so she's looking all cute and sitting down and everything, and I'm over here like in slacks and just a regular blouse. And Rudy comes up to me. I guess, he saw me. We're the only ones there. There's two of us, and there's two of them. And so she's just waiting there, and Rudy gets up, and he comes up to me, and he asks me if I want something, like if I want something to drink. And by that, like, he's saying, like, if I want to drink, like if I want a beer, or if I want, like an alcoholic beverage. And I'm like, no, I don't drink. And so se va todo aguitado. He like goes back, and he just kind of went back to where he was sitting, right? And he tells me that he tells his friend, and maybe he'll be on here and he'll probably correct some of this, or maybe he'll share his input, but this is my version, right? Because I can only speak for myself. But if you hear his version is a little bit different, and he adds a little bit more to it. But so he goes back, and he sits down, and he tells his friend, right? And his friend said, so what happened? And so then Rudy proceeds to tell him, well, she doesn't drink. And he's like, oh, okay. And then, so I don't know what they discussed between them. And then my husband, I guess, decides he's going to get back up and try again. And so he gets up, he goes over there, and he's like, do you want to smoke? And I'm like, I don't smoke. And I don't know if I made like a face to him or what, but he was like, he went back, and he went to go sit back over there. And then his friend asked him, so what happened now? And he's like, well, she doesn't smoke. And my husband tells me that he said, well, what does she do? Because I guess that's not very common, I guess, for the place that they were at. Maybe they're used to that. I don't know. But I wasn't being mean. I wasn't ugly about it or anything. I just basically said I didn't drink and I didn't smoke, right? So he went back. Why he would try a third time is beyond me. But anyway. So let me keep going on with the story. So the guy finally gets there to meet with my sister. So I get up and I go walk around, right? Because there's like, at that time, there was like 5 different, I think it was like 5 or 6 different areas. We were sitting in the hip hop area. And then next to that was like the salsa area. And then after that was the Tejano area. And then if you went to the back, I think they had like the 70s, like the oldies and stuff. And then I think they had like a rave one. And then in the middle, they had the karaoke part. And so I went to go walk around because I don't want to be a third wheel and I don't want to be just sitting there. And so I walk around and when I come back around, I decided to come back to the hip hop area to see like what was up, like what, if, what happened, if they were still there talking or what. So I just circled back around to that same area and I passed by Rudy and his friend. And I guess Rudy smiled at me or something. And then he told me to come here. And I went over there and he was like, do you want a water? And I was like, yeah, I guess I could. Because he had already asked me 3 times. I felt bad. I was embarrassed. And so I said yes. And then so they both got up and they went with me to go and get the water over there, like where the karaoke part is. And so he bought me a bottle of water. It was sealed. And then we started talking and we sat together and then people started getting there and stuff. So it started filling up and stuff. And so we were sitting together. We danced that night quite a bit. And then I noticed when we were sitting, it was dark, right? But the lights were going and everything. And I noticed he had like a really pronounced dimple. And my brother has a dimple. My sister has a dimple. I've never really cared about dimples. Like I even have a little bit right here, right? Like I've never been in dimples. I don't know. But his dimple caught my attention. I'm like, oh, you have a dimple. And he smiled even more and I could see his dimple. And so that kind of got me. That was one of the things that got me. The persistence got me. The fact that he was super like, he was such a gentleman, Anyway, and so we danced or whatever, and it was really nice. And then it was time to leave, and I had to go home early because I had a curfew, right? I didn't want my mom and my dad to find out where we were at. And I'm the one driving, so if I was home late, I was the one that was going to get in trouble, not my little sister. So anyway, I had to leave and I have to tell him that I'm going to leave. And he's like, why? And I told him I had a curfew. And so that was another thing for him that he says that he really liked that I had a curfew, that I didn't drink, that I didn't smoke, that, that I guess the way I was dressed and the fact that I was picking myself up early to go home was something that he really liked. And so when we had to leave, we didn't want to let go of each other's hands. We were saying bye to each other. And so we didn't want to let go. I just don't remember him. We just did this. Look, I don't know what just happened there. I got so nervous. We just did this and we kind of tried to hold hands for a little bit. And then we didn't want to let go. We just let go super slow. And then I told him that I had to leave, and I guess I told him that I was going to be going out of town or something, that I was leaving, and he got all worried. He said, what do you mean you're leaving? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be going to Tennessee because I was going to go visit my aunt and up in Tennessee with my grandma and my little sister. But he thought I was not coming back. He thought I was leaving for good. And I was like, no, I'm just going for a week or something and I'll be back. And so the whole time we ended up talking. So he called me the next day. And the entire week, I think I was out in Tennessee, he called me. And I guess he didn't have a cell phone at the time or whatever, because he was calling me from his dad's cell phone. And his dad would have these talks with me and would try to get all this information from me, who I was, where I was from, what did I do. He was really trying to investigate me and stuff. And I have really great memories about his dad. he was super sweet to me. And yeah, and so what's funny is that Rudy didn't know at the time that I was a member of the church. And this is where I'm trying to get at. Okay, not to tell you about the club and tell you about that, about how the Lord puts people in your lives and he meets you where you're at. Like, Rudy didn't know I was a member of the church. Okay. He told me that previously, before meeting me, 2 missionaries had gone to his house, and he had opened the door and they had offered him a Book of Mormon, and he took it. I don't know if he ever read it or not, but he was visited by the missionaries. Later on, when he met me, he found out I was a member. And so, like, the Lord was kind of working, he was working in the background because he knew what I wanted in my life, what I needed in my life. And at the time when I was getting to know Rudy and stuff, like, I didn't want somebody who would drink or smoke in my life. So I made that very clear when I wanted to date him. I'm like, I don't want somebody who does that, because I had seen that in my family and how people get hurt by the addiction and stuff. And I didn't want that for myself. And so I made that very clear. So Rudy cut cold turkey very quickly, and he just stopped drinking. And, the Lord still met him where he was at. He met us where we were both at. And so we didn't meet in a perfect place. We met at a club. I could have met him maybe like somewhere else, right? Like, I could have met at a church dance, or I would have never thought that the Lord would help us meet at a club, right? And so I guess that's why I'm doing this video, not to put my business out there, but to kind of like tell a little bit of our story about how we weren't both perfect people, but the Lord still put us in a situation where we could meet, right? And so I wanted to make this video, because I feel like it's important for us to realize that the Lord knows us and knows what we need and is working in the background, and that we can change, we can be better, we can see his hand in the things that we go through, that and it wasn't really perfect after that. I will say, like, it was really good. Like, Rudy ended up moving over here from Brownsville to be closer to me and stuff, but we were still struggling because like, he didn't have his papers at the time. He was working on them and stuff, and it was really a hard time because I had to wait for like 4 years before I could get married. And I was very impatient because he had given me my engagement ring like in our 2nd year of dating, and come to find out that I still couldn't marry him, and I still decided to wait. I did so many things for this man. I even went and spoke to the lawyer of this project that was working on his paperwork. And I was very upset, and I told him, like, you all need to do something, I cried also. I remember telling my dad about it. And I remember, this always stays with my heart, where my dad said, what are you going to do, Mija? Go talk to, the the immigration office or what. And that really touched my heart because my dad saw me crying and he saw how much I loved Rudy. And, for him to say that was like important to me. But I'm telling you this story because I feel that it's important to do so. The Lord prompted me to say it. There's a lot more details that my husband can probably share. And I wish I could do this video with him. He's not really one to like to come on here, like on camera and stuff, but I feel that it would be important to hear his take on things and how, he experienced things. Cause he says that when he saw me, he is un exagerado. He says that my hair was blowing and that, all the lights were on me and, he just adds a lot of, it's really nice to hear how a person can express themselves that way about you when you're like at your lowest, where you feel like, like I said, I was heartbroken. I didn't want to be at that place. And then how everything just shifted around and how God works and how he just plays things out, I guess. I would have never thought I would have met my husband at a club. And funny fact is that I never really told my dad. My dad did ask me once prior to me telling him. And he asked me where Rudy and I had met. And I had told him, in a place where they had music and food. I wasn't lying. I just didn't tell him exactly where. I just told him, well, there's a place where there's music and food. But I never gave him the exact thing. So when I got married, he asked me again. I was already married with Rudy. And I remember he was lying down on his bed. And I remember he asked, so where did you guys meet again? And I said, well, you can't do anything to me anymore, Dad. I'm like, I'm already married. And he just kind of looks at me like with a face. And I'm like, I met him. In my defense, Dad, I didn't want to be there. And I told him how and why I was there. And my little sister was in the room. She's like, shut up. And I remember she said, shut up, stupid. And I don't want to like call her out or anything, but I was like telling my dad, hey, just in my defense, like, and all the times that I got in trouble for being late, they weren't always my fault. But anyway, yeah, I ended up telling my dad, and my dad just made a face like he wanted to kill me, but I was already married, so he couldn't do anything. He just kind of looked at me like, but I told my piece. So I don't know if he ever forgave me for that or not, but I always got home early, still a good girl, so tried my best, but yeah. So there is the story of how Rudy and I met. I will try to get him on camera, hopefully, and he wants to kind of tell his version so you guys can get the full picture. But yeah, the Lord meets us where we are at. I know that the Lord met Rudy where he was at. He says a lot of things that are very similar to mine of how we were feeling, how he would pray and ask for God for a good woman. And he would tell God that one day he would find me, and I would do the same thing, but I would also write what I wanted on paper and I would put it out there to him. I would pray to him and ask him for a good man who would love me, who would treat me with respect. And when Rudy, because there was a time where Rudy and I had separated for a while. He had already moved here to McAllen. And we had broken up for a little while because, well, one, because of his papers. His papers weren't fixed. Two, because he was struggling and, he wasn't able to like hold a job and stuff. And the immigration thing was a really big deal. And third, because my parents wanted a church member and he was not baptized yet and he wasn't a member. And so like every parent, if I was in that situation, I'd probably want the same for my my kid to, right? I would want them to marry into the same faith, because it's just easier, and it's harder for parents who have different beliefs, and there's a lot of fighting back and forth on where the kid is going to get baptized, what beliefs they have and stuff. And so I totally understand my parents, and I'm not blaming them. I'm simply saying that that had a lot of influence on me to not want to pursue like being in that relationship. And so we kind of broke up for a little while, and he was living here in McAllen, and lo and behold, two missionaries showed up again at the apartments where he was living, and they comforted Rudy. They stuck by Rudy. They stood by Rudy. I'm sorry. They stood by Rudy, and they just, they helped him. They were teaching him. And I remember Rudy calling me to invite me to his baptism. We were still talking a little bit here and there, but we weren't like boyfriend and girlfriend. And so I ended up going to his baptism. He ended up getting baptized at the Far Chapel. And I went, even though I wasn't his girlfriend, I still went. And I remember seeing him get baptized, and I was super happy to see him get baptized. And I remember we hugged, and I don't remember if my little sister went with me or not. I know that I went, but I don't remember who I went. I don't remember. But I remember these two missionaries seeing me, and I don't know if they were mad or what at me, or because they knew that Rudy was heartbroken or whatever, but they were very nice to me. They shook my hand. I remember seeing his dad and his mom there, and I remember that I don't know if they knew that we were broken up or not, but I remember seeing his dad embrace Rudy with a huge hug and patted his back really, like, I remember how hard, like, I heard it, like, it was kind of hard, and he said how proud he was of him. And so that was a big thing for me, to see Rudy take that step on his own. It wasn't like, yes, he invited me, and yes, I was there to witness it, but we weren't together. But that was a really important step. And I feel that him doing that, and I'm not going to say it was for me, because it wasn't for me. He knew it was important to me, but I knew that he did it for himself. I knew that because he kept going to church afterwards, and he kept doing what he had to do. And so the Lord met him where he was at and helped him change and helped him do the very best. And Rudy had goals, and he knew what he wanted, and he knew what he had to do to work for them. Just like he worked to get baptized, he worked to continue to pursue me and stay persistent in us. And so he never gave up, and that's something that I've always admired about him, and I love him for it, because he was able to meet everything I needed in a man. And so don't ever think that you're not going to find that special person, because you will. You just need to know that the Lord is going to meet you where you are at. Like, he met me where I was at, and I didn't even know what was going on. Rudy didn't even know what was going on either. It just kind of happened, and he just brought us together, and it worked. And there was struggles and temptations, and there was trials that we had to get through. But I think that's what has kept us together for so long. We're going to be together almost 20 something years. And we've been through a lot of things together. And I think that if we wouldn't have gone through the things that we went through, like, as boyfriend and girlfriend, like the trial of not being able to get married, like, it took us 4 years to be together. So it's not like something you can just throw away in the trash, because it took us a long time to be together, because there was obstacles to get through. It was hard. It was hard for for me to feel that heartache that I wanted to be with somebody and I couldn't marry that person. You know, there was papers that were keeping me from doing that. And so, yeah, I might get upset and I get angry or whatever. But I remember what it cost us to be together. And so we hold on. You know, Rudy's gone through a lot of like health issues and stuff. And like, they're very overwhelming at times. And they're hard, and like money issues, and like just so many things that we have to go through as a couple. And how we stay strong together is because we believe in God, and because we believe that this is a relationship worth fighting for. It's a relationship worth working for. It's a relationship that works. Rudy is what I'm not, you know, and I am what he isn't. But that's a good thing because it works. And so the Lord will meet you where you are at. It doesn't matter. And I'm not saying for everybody to go out there and go to a club, because no, no, I probably wouldn't want my kid to meet their spouse, but I wouldn't judge them. Knowing what I have been through, I think it's made me a little bit less judgmental. So I wouldn't judge them for it. You know, I hope that they'd be open about it instead of how I was. But the fact that my dad accepted him, and how Rudy went and asked for my hand in marriage. And, you know, he tells me how he went all like excited to go and ask my dad for my hand. I had no clue he was going to do that. I knew he was purchasing a ring because he had showed it to me, and he was telling me we were going, and he was showing me, look, these are the kind of rings they have and stuff. And like, I always wanted a princess cut. I wanted like a square kind, you know, I didn't want the round one. I wanted a square one. So we were doing the shopping together, but I mean, he was the one paying for the ring and everything. And so I never knew when he actually took it out. So when he went to go ask my dad, he went to the ranch and he went in shorts, and my mom was kind of like, you know, he came in shorts or whatever. But Rudy never knew how to ask for somebody's hand in marriage. I mean, I tell him like, why? I'm sure you saw movies of how people ask for hands in marriage, but I really didn't care about that, honestly. If it wasn't for some family members sharing their thoughts about it, I wouldn't even have cared. I just cared about the fact that Rudy had asked for my hand in marriage, and how he had the guts to ask my dad. And so he just went, and I don't know what their conversation was. He gives me bits and pieces, but he just says that my dad knew, and that my dad asked him, "Are you sure, Rudy?" And my Rudy said yes. And so, yeah, I remember he did that, and then he didn't give me the ring right then and there. He left, and then he ended up, I guess we went out. I don't remember what we were doing. And then I guess he couldn't take it anymore, and he asked me to get married at the parking lot of Dillard's. And I was like, out of all places, I don't know why he chose that place, but that's a very special parking lot. He asked me to be his wife at the Dillard's parking lot at the mall in McAllen. And, but I didn't tell him yes right away. I made him promise me 3 things. I told him, you better never make me cry. I gave him some things. I'm like, you're never going to make me cry. And you're going to take care of me. And you're never going to cheat on me. And so when he said, you know, he wouldn't do any of those things, you know, then I took the ring. I didn't take it automatically. Like, I had standards. I had things I needed to let off of my chest. And so he gave me the ring. I remember calling my dad afterwards and telling him, and I was all excited, and my dad already knew, so he wasn't like all like, wow, whatever. He just said, hey, y'all want to go to I don't know if it was I think it was a wedding or something. My uncle was going to be playing my uncle Oscar Garza was going to be playing at, I think, a wedding, or it wasn't a quince. It was at a hall, and we ended up going. And my dad danced the night away with my mom, and I danced with Rudy, and it was such a fun night. But yeah, that's how Rudy and I met, and that's how God met us where we were at, and that's how we were able to construct this wonderful relationship. So there is hope, even when you think that you're not going to find somebody, or that your heart is broken, or that, somebody's not going to meet your standards, or they're not going to work hard for you, or, they're not going to be persistent as Rudy was with me. I try to tell this story to my nieces all the time. I know I've told them countless times about how we met, because I want my kids and my nieces and my nieces and nephews to understand that we need to put ourselves at a higher place, because sometimes we're so used to putting ourselves down and not putting ourselves where we need to be, or how God sees us. We need to be able to allow people to see us how God sees us. God sees us at a higher place, and how the person that's going to love you is really going to work hard for you and change and do whatever they need to be with you. I did a lot to be with Rudy. I did a lot. It wasn't easy. It was hard. I had to learn to be patient for those papers to go through. I had to learn to be patient with the process, with the immigration process. I had to be patient. I've had to be patient, with healing, with a lot of things, with his decision to get baptized, his decision to be more, I guess the word is to learn how to be a member of the church. That is so important to me. He had to learn the love I have for my Heavenly Father and for Jesus Christ, and how that was important for me to teach my children, our children. And so, yeah. What else can I tell you? I'm kind of just going by what is coming to my mind, and that's what I'm saying. But I felt like I needed to share this, because I think it's important for people to not judge themselves, and know that it's a process. Know that God loves you, and that He will work out whatever needs to be worked out, and that He will meet you where you're at, and somebody's going to love you regardless of your past, regardless of what you are, where you are at right now. If they love you, they'll work with you. If they love you, they'll try to help you or meet you. Meet you at a place where they can see progression, I guess. And so I guess that's all I have for you guys. I don't know. I don't want to make it too long, because I know the other video that I had made, somebody had said some comments, and not just one person, a few people that I spoke to had said that I had made it too long, and that they didn't have time, or that, I never got to the point. I mean, people are kind of rude online. It's kind of hard to share personal things and share things online, because people are very judgmental. And I am not here to brag about my relationship with my husband, or to say I'm the most happiest person in the world, because clearly nobody's perfect, and every couple has its problems and stuff. And I am not trying here to preach to anybody. I'm just doing what I felt that I needed to share, and hopefully it helped somebody, or hopefully it inspired you in some way. Hopefully it, I guess, just helps you in some way or somehow. Don't go out there to clubs. That's not what I was trying to say. Even though, like, honestly, guys, the reason why people go there is because they like to dance. I love to dance. There's not a lot of great places here to dance, honestly, without it getting so crazy or people being disrespectful, or they don't really respect, like, couples, or they don't respect other people's relationships and stuff. That's why Rudy and I kind of stopped going to those kind of settings. We tried going afterwards, like once we were like together as boyfriend and girlfriend, but we just stopped completely because we started noticing there it was causing like jealousy, and it was causing a little bit of problems. So we kind of just met there, and then after that we just stopped going. Like, we went a few times, and it just wasn't our scene anymore. We just kind of knew that, hey, this is what we're gonna lock down. This is what we want, and we kind of just stayed away from that. Honestly, the reason why I went is because I love to dance and stuff, and so yeah, that's. I mean, you have to meet people with things that you like to do. Like, if you like to like read books or whatever, go to places like Barnes and Noble or the library, or like different, I don't know, book events or something. If church is a big thing for you, go to church, go to different activities and stuff, and see if you'll find somebody there. If you like fishing, well, go to the beach, go to places where they fish, maybe you'll find somebody there. Do things that you kind of will find a person who has things in common with you. Don't go to, and don't pretend to be something you're not, because eventually you are going to come out, and they might not like that. So I was always able to be myself with Rudy, and he was always able to be himself with me. At first, yeah, there's the dating period where you're like trying your best to look the best and to act the best and all this stuff. But eventually you start dissecting little by little. I mean, 4 years is a long time to be together. And so you can really find out a lot about a person. Now, not everybody dates for 4 years like Rudy and I did, but I guess the Lord knew what he was doing, and he probably really needed us to see what we were going to get ourselves into. And because Rudy was also was single for a while, and from what I gather, he didn't really date as much. I dated, but not anybody for like 4 years, straight. So just try your best and pray and ask God for guidance, and talk to him and tell him exactly what you want, what you need, how you're feeling. Set your standards, set goals, know what you want, know your worth, learn your worth, because I had to learn it the hard way. And it wasn't easy. It was a lot of crying, lots of heartache. And I remember my dad always telling me to guard your heart, and because you only get one. And I'm so grateful for my dad, because I was able to be more open with him more as an adult, like in my 20s, my later 20s. I was able to be more open with him and be able to share how I felt and share certain things that I normally wouldn't have earlier on. I'm grateful for him teaching me how to take care of myself and how to present myself, because he always gave me the dad talks, like, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. And sometimes we don't want to listen because we think we know better, which that happened quite often. But like, I get it now that I'm a parent. I understand what he was trying to do, because now I give the same advice to my kids and stuff. So yeah, know that the Lord will meet the things that you need, and he will send you a good person. You just have to remember that he's working, and you need to be also working on yourself. You need to be at a place where you love yourself, where you respect yourself, where you know your worth, where you are able to be yourself, to be able to stand firm in a lot of things. Because there was a time where I didn't know how to stand firm. I was just like, okay, whatever the person said, whatever this, whatever that, I would always do what that person wanted. And that's not okay, because that probably wouldn't have ended well. It probably would have ended with me being unhappy. And so, yeah, I guess that's where I will leave it. I think that I've said enough, and I don't want to make it too long, but thanks for watching. You guys learned something now. I don't think I've ever shared this, so be nice, because if you come at me, I'm going to come back at you. I'm going to try to be nice, but don't come at me with my relationship. You can come at me with other things, but do not come at me when it comes to my family. So be nice. And thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye, guys.